Welcome to another Overwatch Weekly podcast here with BobbyJ. To this episode, I've got Switch, Redact, and Jordan, of course. Can't forget my younger brother. So before I get into things, I need to do all the quick shout outs. So first of all, to the summer series starting this 4th of February, this Saturday. It's going to be exciting, starting at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Sign-ups closed tonight. So if you haven't signed up, be sure to do that now because it's your last opportunity before it's gone. And then we've got CyberGamer every Tuesdays, Server 76 doing their scrim ladder, and they've got weekly rumbles. They're also going to be involved in the qualifiers, along with WATCHPOINT Oceania. They're also involved in the qualifiers, doing CGNs every second Saturday, so check them out on their Discords. And then, of course, big shout out to Ronnie and all the guys at OCE Overwatch, bringing together everyone in the community with their community hub and power rankings. So big shout out to all you guys there that help everyone find teams. And then I've got two apologies. First one to Jordan. I'm sorry, bro. I forgot to fix up your Twitter handle before we did the podcast. I put MGC_Jordan instead of MGC Jordan. So I'll probably cop some flack for that from you in some Twitter DMs or Discord DMs. And then lastly, but not least, is Mason, who we went out to dinner a couple of weekends ago, and he wanted an apology for me calling him a gold player when he wasn't gold when we played in a LAN event together a couple of months ago. So he was diamond. So here's your apology, you bastard. Enjoy your holiday. And to everyone else, hopefully you enjoy the podcast. Take care. Hello, welcome back to another Overwatch Weekly podcast with BobbyJ, of course. And this week, got another 3 guests with Redact from TempoStorm, Switch from the Yes Men, and of course, my younger brother Jordan from Masterminds. So, first of all, I'm going to shout out to my family member. What's going on, Jordan?
Yeah, not much, Bobby. Good to be back on the podcast again. Let's hope this one doesn't get deleted.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one a little bit later. And then Switch from the Yes Men. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Yeah, just having a good afternoon.
And then Redact.
Settling down to talk about...
Oh, sorry. I thought there was just like,
No,
have a
it's
good
fine.
afternoon.
No,
That's
it's-
it. No, keep going, mate.
No, just settling down to talk about some Overwatch. Looking forward to it.
And of course, Redact, one of the busiest men in the scene. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Not busy for once. Got the day off tomorrow from work, so long weekend for me, I guess.
So we get to sit back and enjoy. And before we get into things, let's look over the CyberGamer results. Of course, we've got Jordan here from Masterminds, who came up victorious. First place, going up against Esports, which was just recently picked up. They picked up the Ancient Templar squad, so they had a great grand final series, 2-1. It was nice and close, with the semi-finals between Esports and GM Gaming, and then Love Shack. They were back this week, and they took on Masterminds unsuccessful in the semi-finals against them. So it was a good CG overall. I'll get your thoughts first of all, Jordan, since you're with Masterminds, the winning squad. How'd you feel about your team's performance and the rest of the night as well?
I thought we did pretty good. We had, I think it was versus Sweatshop. We played them on Nepal. That was a bit closer than I think we would have liked. And I think we probably should have taken that as a warning sign not to play Nepal against Scylla. But I think a lot of us did really well to get, well, in no other words, get demolished so badly versus Scylla, and then manage to, have the mental fortitude to come back and then take the series, especially in the way we did it on Ilios, which was a 3-0.
Yeah. And so what happened on King's Row? Because they had a really good start against you guys, and you had to pretty much hold on defense around near the second checkpoint. You could have let it go a little bit further, I suppose, into the third, but your backs were up against the wall. What was that game-changing moment that allowed you to win on defense?
I think the main game-changing moment is when when the series really turned was on the recontest of the second point when they lost the fight with 4 ults. I know they used Wuvo's Dragon Strike with the Graviton, and then it was just completely countered by Bim's ult, and then we just snowballed it from there. They never really strung anything else together. I know they wasted 2 minutes trying to push up top, and they didn't even get on the cart, and they just stood up there, and we were just like, what the hell are they doing? What? Why? And I think, when they did a few failed pushes, we just built up 6 ults, and then they all tried to use their ults, we used ours, and we just held them. Simple as that.
And then, of course, we've got Switch from the Yes Men. You didn't play last Tuesday, did the week previous, so did you manage to catch the games from this week?
No, not really. We were scrimming during CyberGamer, and I've been pretty full on scrims every night since. I'm doing 3 hours of scrims and then 2 hours of a custom game, just thinking out strats every night. So I have had no time to watch anything. I watched it on the weekend. if we qualify on Saturday.
If you qualify on Saturday. We'll get around to Summer Series shortly. Actually, no, we'll start transitioning over to the Summer Series then. Because Tempo Redact, they didn't play in Tuesday either. You were actually scrimming the Yes Men, so you guys were prepping for this weekend's qualifiers. But the 4 teams that have already been invited to the Summer Series is TempoStorm, Jam Gaming, Fusion Girls, and Masterminds. What were your thoughts on the 4 games the 4 teams that got invited, Redact?
I mean, I felt like it was pretty much a given because they're the 4 teams with I guess the most history by far. Considering that Jam previously was Skyfire, who were always right up there. Masterminds have been Masterminds forever. TempoStorm, we've been around for a while. And Fusion Girls, again, they were previously Jam. They've been around for quite a while as well. Whereas seeing as and that sort of stuff was all organized quite a while earlier for Heroes League. Originally, it was going to be much longer or sort of deal. So the invites were sorted quite a while before even like the skill guys really stood out as like one of the top sort of teams. So I think the invites were fine. It's sort of like it feels like they probably could have invited 5 teams maybe just because Scylla's right up there. But realistically, when it was originally sorted, it was sort of more a clear 4 and they were like right up there, but they weren't quite proven yet when the invites were originally sorted. But I do acknowledge that they're right up there. If anyone's probably just going to walk through the the qualifiers for free, it's gonna be them. If anyone, I reckon.
Well, we'll get onto the qualifiers in a second. Do any of you boys have any thoughts on the 4 teams that got invited?
I think they're the right 4 for the same reasons Redact stated. The longest standing teams. I know Tempo's gone through some roster troubles, but they've got a big org behind them, and they've still got the core 3. It makes sense from pretty much everyone's perspective. Scylla are pretty much brand new.
Yeah, I know a few people are a bit up in arms about the players getting the deck, but you got to realize that the full circle, they've got other priorities than just, helping the players. Obviously, that's one of their top ones, but I mean, you're going to want to put in the orgs that have been here the longest.
That's fair enough, because we wouldn't have a scene without those orgs putting in the time and effort throughout almost a full year now that Overwatch has been out. We're 2 months shy of it. So big shout out to all those orgs that have stuck around and been in the trenches since then. And we've got this awesome 10K tournament coming up. And let's talk about the qualifiers starting on the 4th of February. This Saturday, there will be numerous qualifiers. There's going to be 3 ANZ qualifiers. The first one on the 4th of February, second on the 5th, and then, of course, a third on the 11th. So those will all be starting at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. You haven't signed up yet. You have one more day to do it. So you got to by the time this podcast comes out, you probably have about 24 hours left. So you haven't done it. Do so now. Also, the wild cards will be on the 12th of February, starting at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So even if you don't qualify in the first 3, you still have another opportunity. And then we've also got the Southeast Asian qualifiers on the 15th and 16th of Feb. So let's get everyone's thoughts on how they feel about the qualifying process with the Swiss format and what teams do they expect to be qualified through, starting with you, Redact.
Well, just as I said before, it's still I definitely think they'll sort of come through. The next one's to sort of look for a Love Shack. I mean, they're pretty newly actually formed with their proper roster. So I definitely think they'll be up and coming, if not right up there straight away when they get a bit more scrim time coming in. But otherwise, the Monopoly Clubs dudes seemed like they look not too bad. We've had barely any time against them, so I couldn't tell you like a really clear sort of judgment. But there's so many teams that I feel like are at that same level at where Monopoly Club are right now. There's just going to be. I feel like almost who's better on the day and who manages to draft better, because it just ends up being all over the shop. And on top of that as well, how many qualifiers they can actually attend. Because from what I understood, at least what I've read in terms of the format, it seemed like it'd favour them if they were able to attend a lot more. So it just depends on how many qualifiers they can make.
True. What about you, Switch? Your team will be in amongst the qualifiers. How do you feel the Yes Men will perform, and any other teams that you predict that will make it through the qualifiers?
We hope we should make it through in the first 2 days. That's our objective and what we're kind of aiming for. I think all the teams Redact mentioned are definitely correct. I think there might be a couple of teams that are up and comers that might surprise some people just from scrim results. There are some teams that some people might be sleeping on. I scrimmed a team last night that Dominators harder than any of the top 4 teams we've scrimmed have. Team Face Tongue, I think they're called. It's got interesting roster. They've got Phantom. They've got this guy called Aputo, who I've never heard of before. He is really good.
He played for Team Thailand at the World Cup. He's a really, really strong player.
He's a force. I'll say that. He's an absolute force. That guy is very scary. And you should watch out for that team because they're very coordinated. They know how to deal with a variety of comps. I expect they'll come out of nowhere and shock some people. Love Shack are looking really strong too. That new roster is very good.
They do have a new roster. We'll get into Love Shack's roster quite soon, but your thoughts as well, Jordan, on the qualifiers?
I think Scylla definitely a shoe-in. Like Switch said, MA Lakers, I think that's their team name. That's like Tonga, Pudo, Phantom and all that. They're definitely a shoe-in as well. And I don't think anyone's mentioned Nectar's team, 1018. I think they're definitely one of the really stronger teams to go on for the qualifier. I think Akami Wolfblade as well. I think they might not get in first day, but I definitely expect them to get in second day, depending on how this Swiss format goes, because everyone knows Swiss can be a bit of a clusterfuck.
Definitely.
What about Default? No one's mentioned Default. Does anyone think those guys will make it through?
I assume they will make it through, but if I don't reckon they'll make it through first day, maybe second day. I'd say third for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. They're a chance to come through second day, and I think they'll definitely be in by third.
I was going to say, like, if not third day, I feel like they'd make the wild card straight away. I don't have a doubt about that if they've attended enough at least, and then they should take out the wild cards. They'll be able to get a spot to the main event one way or another. It's just a matter of how, not if. I feel like.
Some other teams up there that I'd rate like third day wildcard teams. Sweatshop, I haven't ever scrimmed them, but the roster looks really good, and I heard some stuff from teams who have scrimmed them. Eben, for sure. Bachu is really, really good, and the roster works really well around him. They run stuff like Genji on defense, but they make it work.
They've got Vitania now as well. So
they have
two
Vitania too.
Solid DPS players. They got a new tank as well, Mr. Saigoon.
Bakak, Soul Gravy Train. These are all teams I would expect to see qualify at some stage or another.
Yeah, so they've got a good handful. Then you've got all the other teams that are starting to come through. There's Diffuse. I've already mentioned Monopoly Club and Love Shack. And there's Riotous. Because Riotous have had some player changes, so I don't know how you were fairly close with the Riotous guys, Jordan. How do you see that team shaping up nowadays? They've had a few lineup changes.
Well, we played them on CyberGamer. They were our first match. We pushed the cut, and I think it was 2 minutes 50, and we held them on first. So I'm not going to say anything else about that.
All right. Well, hopefully things turn around for those guys there, but it's definitely a lot of teams we're going to have compete to qualify, so it's going to be a pretty good event. But the Southeast Asian teams, I haven't done my full research on the region just yet, but has anyone here know about the Southeast Asian teams that will be a shoe-in to be qualified?
Team Bacon Jack, apart from that, no.
Do you know anyone with that?
No, I just would say whatever Pudo's involved with, we'll just dominate compared to most of the SEA teams. Like, there was a reason his team got scattered from 4 NVUS previously. I mean, his position wasn't open for NVUS, but that's how Mickey got through his sort of team. And I mean, Mickey has only praise to speak about him, so it's pretty obvious if he's comparing Pudo's skills to people like NVUS, will be able to almost carry a team through SEA qualifiers. Yeah,
he can. He can. 100%. We scrimmed everybody who's in the tier list except Masterminds and Fusion, and Apudo is bloody scary.
So, when after we get through the qualifiers, it will be a double elimination bracket with 3 groups of 8, 2 ANZ groups A and B, as Switch, you were just hoping that you were getting on Group B, so fingers crossed. And then there's also Group C is Southeast Asia. So there'll be two teams from each group that qualify. So there'll be 4 ANZ teams, 2 from Southeast Asia. So let's get our predictions here, guys. What 4 teams do you expect to see in the finals, and what 2 teams? Well, we don't know too many Southeast Asian teams at this point in time. We'll have more on them in the next podcast. But let's get our 4 ANZ teams we right now will expect to see on the 18th and 19th of February that qualify through the main event. Starting with you, Redact.
I feel like the 4 teams that you saw invited are the 4 teams you'll get there. Like there's a chance that Scylla and probably Love Shack could take an upset of someone. Whereas based on everything I've sort of seen, played against some of the other guys and seen at the CyberGamer events, it just feels like it's sort of the 4 teams that have got invited that I feel like the ANZ teams will see the finals, no doubt about that.
What about you, Switch?
I think Scylla will get in there. I think I'm going to give 2 answers, and it's so first I'm going to pick all the favorites because right now, based on team strengths at this moment, not in 2 weeks' time, I would say that it's pretty hard to argue that it's going to be Fusion Girls, Masterminds. I would say Tempo and a toss-up between Scylla and Jam, but that's just me. But I think there are some dark horses, like what's the name of the team with Apudo?
MA Lakers.
MA Lakers.
Got to keep an eye on those guys.
A dark horse, and they have a lot of talent, and if I don't know, those guys are really good. I couldn't call it. And there are teams like Monopoly Club who could improve, like out of sight. They seem to have a solid roster, but it hasn't maybe the strategy hasn't come fully together yet. They're not complete. And if some teams can round off, the rough edges and complete and catch up, because a lot of these teams are really new teams and they haven't had a chance to improve and get all the experience that a lot of the top teams have. And we're going through the same growing pains.
Yeah.
I think you could definitely see some upsets and some dark horses coming through, maybe 1 or 2.
And of course, you, Jordan.
Fusion Girls, definitely. I've got to be biased and say Masterminds. I hope for that. 3rd, I'd probably say Scylla. And then 4th is honestly a toss-up. Because at the moment, any team outside of Fusion Girls from maybe 2nd to maybe about 7th, they can get maps off each other. There can be upsets all day in there. So it's pretty much impossible to predict, honestly.
Yeah. And then...
Other than that, Fusion Girls got to win the whole tournament. That's going to happen.
Oh, dude,
yeah,
you're laying down for them. What are you doing?
No, he's right.
Oh,
the thing is, as much as I haven't played against Fusion Girls, they would refuse to scrim us.
Yeah,
but the funny thing is, at least what I got, Love Shack, before they even formed their lineup, were beating Fusion Girl in scrims.
Interesting.
That's and they were the only team that I've heard of that would scrim them, and they didn't want to scrim us, so we were keen for it. They weren't too keen, but that's the only thing I've heard of this Fusion Girls scrimming any Australian teams. And Love Shack were beating them in that lineup, and this was with Alim, who's now with us. He was in that game.
This was 6 weeks ago, or
more than
this is I don't know how long ago. I couldn't tell you. This just before Alim was with us, so it's at least 4 or more weeks ago.
This would have been before the ESL event because Alim left Love Shack after the ESL event, and that was the start of December, the very beginning, 4th of December.
I thought this occurred all around the modified drama around then.
It was well after that.
It would have been the lineup with Elim, TJK, Cinderella.
Yeah, that's that.
It would have been Love Shack
was that
2.0. It wouldn't have been the first one or the one that they have now.
Oh, okay.
No, it was when they had TJK, Alim, Cindy. I don't know who. I know the Smash Brother because he's part of it, but I'm guessing it would have been Evie as well, probably then, and one more. And Alim was DPS as well, so.
Yeah.
So
that was. They had Chiller. They had Chiller as support.
Yeah, that's right. Chiller. Yeah, I played TF2 with him at one stage. Jeez.
Yeah.
Can't forget Curtis.
Who's he playing with now? He's on a new team.
I'm not sure.
He's on MA Lakers. He's on Apudo's team.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
He's a good player. Well,
I don't think he is.
Well, we got a spreadsheet for this. Let's go check right now.
Well, the spreadsheet has the roster as Preza, Face,
Oh, okay,
Phantom.
no, it is Tongue. It is Tongue. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
He's on Soul Gravy Train. That's right. I knew it.
Yes,
Yes, Clip Psycho and all that.
Yeah, because I streamed them the other day, and I remember them he was versing his old teammates on Akami Wolfblade, so we're just having a bit of banter in the chat. But of course, you've got Wrench. Not Wrench. I'll just call it like Rain and Dench together. That could be their name. Wrench. God damn. Wherever they're involved, there's just going to be an immense amount of shit talk. Wherever they follow. Your friends, Jordan. Your friends. Keep them in line. God damn it. But okay, let's talk about TempoStorm for a bit. Redact, you've had some lineup changes. We've been over this on previous podcasts, but how do you feel the team's shaping up now after the recent changes? And what were the struggles and the growing pains going through with the new lineup?
Everything sort of changed the end of December. The struggling and growing pains was like when we were trying people, we were happy with them, and then they suddenly became not an option for one reason or another. Like Ilim was always going to be. He's the best man for a wedding that's on the same date as the original LAN finals. So there's like absolutely no exception, and it's in another it's not even in New Zealand, so there's no way he could have made it. And it was kind of like, why even grab someone if they can't come to the LAN finals of the biggest event to date? Like, what are you making a team for then, really? So that was like kind of in contention. Then as soon as the online part of it came out, then it was a matter of he could actually play later on that afternoon or the wedding day as well as the next day, because he doesn't have to be in a different country anymore. But also the fact and this was also while we're trialing him, he got promoted, and that suddenly also meant he couldn't make any Monday nights as well, because he'd meet with overseas clients on that day. So like everything his own life got in his way to throw him under the bus. All these great things happening to him that weren't helping his Overwatch career, but we've worked everything out. It's all sorting out there. But then also like we're trialing Huss, and Huss decided to go with Fusion Girls, which is a great opportunity for him. But it was kind of like we're keen on Huss. He went to Fusion Girls. Makes sense. Fusion Girls are pretty much the undisputed number one at this point in time. Why not? But yeah, there's just all sorts of stuff that sort of became growing pains and people not working out or stuff like that. But we've gotten to at least what we feel like is the right sort of lineup, and it's just a matter of getting the back end sort of things sorted out. The paperwork at this stage is all we're really waiting on.
And we've got a pretty good lineup, so it's pretty much this. We had Refs and Tempo, Refs are not Tempo, Termo, Refs and Termo, those are quite similar names. Refs, Termo, and Mosh, of course, are still at the same core three from the original Tempo lineup. So, do they mesh well with the other three? Do they all get along, or is it just mostly just business when people come onto the Discord?
Oh, it's a lot less business than it was with the last team. It's a lot more. I mean, it was pretty much like imagine just shoving 3 more Jameses in the team, 3 more Yukis. Like everyone's just sort of having fun, joking around, doing all sorts of stuff like that. And it's really good. Like it's completely different. It's a much more like, I don't know, jokey atmosphere, I guess. So it's not as much about serious business all the time anymore, that sort of deal. Well, it was never really like that previously, but it's just even more so extreme in that way now. So it's and everyone sort of gets along. It's really great. It's a very relaxed, enjoyable environment. Like it's great.
Would you say that you are looking forward to taking on some of the teams? Say, I know you got history with Fusion Girls in the past, and I could honestly say maybe even Love Shack now, because you've got an old teammate, Hey Katie, on the Love Shack lineup, and there's Tails, who was originally going to trial for TempoStorm. I think he was trialing. So, are you guys looking forward to going up against those two teams? Would that be, say, like a grudge match and like be cool for the fans and everyone to look forward to?
Oh yeah, everyone's. I'd love everyone to speculate the worst things or the most retarded things possible, because it'd be great. Because if you just make up things and whatever, as long as it doesn't somehow come back to bite me, that'll be bad. But I just love hearing all the different stories and things people make up or come up with, in terms of grudges or so on. Because the reality is, like, the closest thing anyone thinks I or any of us sort of have to a grudge, I just treat it all as business. So it's like people would think I have personal investment in a lot of this stuff, whereas I don't. I just sort of treat it as, hey, look, can't get this or can't do that, whatever. It's business. That's it. Like I was mentioning, like wanting to scream the Fusion Girls guys before and they don't want to. Well, too bad. I mean, so bad. I'll just move on to the next thing. I don't take it personal. Hopefully they don't take it personally, or they're worried about that sort of thing. And that's why I mentioned the Fusion Girls stuff before, because I thought it would be great just to throw in there. People would speculate, make up stuff, and be like, oh, this and that, and then I don't know, see what those guys say back. If they say nothing, that's kind of boring. But it's just a sort of fun stuff. I've got nothing personal against the dudes. Like, I enjoyed my time with them originally, all of them, Jackson and so on. Like, I think probably even like 2 weeks ago or so, I was telling Jackson to come down to Victoria for a fighting game tournament. Like, I still want to maintain those like relationships as friends with those guys. It's zero negative personal things at all, but it'd be really great to play against them. I think it'll be great games. We're super looking forward to playing against some other teams we haven't had the chance to play, like Fusion Girls. We haven't played against Love Shack's new lineup, all that sort of stuff. I'm super keen to jump into any of that I can.
Yeah. Oh, your mic just went like real low right at the very end. Wait.
Oh, I was going to say,
Oh, there we go.
I'm super keen to jump into anything that I can, like in any way, the team is super keen to jump into any of it. We just want to play teams, and that's why I asked you to play Fusion Girls. Like, some people might say on paper, oh no, they'll know strats or you'll know strats or whatever, but it's like just fun games, man. Like,
yeah, it's only like when people make up stuff, I think it's more of like the entertainment aspect. They're just kind of bored and they just want to create drama, like create a story within the scene. Which I guess very frustrating on the players' end because they just want to focus and be good at the game, where other people are just going around talking shit, I suppose. But I guess it's like, I suppose like the way I look at it, because I got to commentate and create like some sort of story on the stream. That's when I try to bring up like past like teams that are like they're on past teams, like Jackson's now, or Katie's now on Love Shack, so he'd be looking to get one over on TempoStorm, and probably like with Tails as well. He didn't make it on Fusion or Tempo's lineup, so now he's with Love Shack, so they're probably looking to take them both down. Like, that's a cool thing to talk about, like, on the stream for like all the viewers, to get them interested, so they don't click off the stream and whatever. That's why I try to watch all the upcoming teams as well. So someone like Yes Men, where I spend time sitting in your scrims, so that way I kind of can, paint like a picture like for each stream. So that's why I get really excited
Picture
about that.
inconsistency.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's other things as well. It's like, because we're such a new scene, there's so many shuffles and so many new teams, all that sort of stuff. As a caster, you don't have that sort of, oh yeah, the last 3 times these guys met, they picked these maps and there are these stats. There's none of that. I mean, there's no Monopoly Club versus TempoStorm matches ever. There is no Fusion Girls versus half of Australia at this point. Like, there's no TempoStorm's new Alana versus anyone in tournaments apart from 3 tank meta. So there's only speculation and sort of things you can come up. You can't come up with like the stats of the match history and the last 3 times I did this, will we see a change? It's just purely about personalities and people at this sort of stage.
And speaking of one player that a lot of teams wanted to get their hands on, and you've done that switch, you've got the man Hulu. So he was hot property for a while. He's ended up on your doorstep. Mm-hmm. So how did you manage to snag Hulu and create the Yes Men? I want to know the story about the Yes Men.
I don't know. I always got on well with Hulu. Over some, I don't know, we started talking way back over some boosting drama. Back in my capacities as a Whirlpool mod. And turned out he was guilty. And I gave him shit for it and stuff. Anyway, I don't know. Somehow out of it, we started becoming like friendly. I don't know. So I don't know. Just talked every now and again. And I was making a new team because I wanted to get something for Heroes League just for fun. I never really envisaged it being a serious team. It was more of like, let's try and make a top 10 team, something like that. And I kind of had a fuck it attitude because a bunch of my old teammates were going on holidays or quit Overwatch or whatever. So I got the opportunity to make a team with not necessarily friends, but just players I could pick up. And the roster started coming together stronger than I anticipated. And I was just talking to and he's like, "What's your roster now?" And I got this person, and I think I had USMC, me, and Will 1. And he's like, I'm looking at this other guy who was really good, and I was like, I'm pretty happy with it. It's looking really good. And he's like, are you sure about that other guy? I'm like, oh, we haven't finished trialing him yet, but he's a really good player. Yeah, pretty sure. And he's like, what if I wanted to join? And I was like, sure. Yeah, I guess. I couldn't really say no. So yeah, he kind of just joined. that was pretty much it.
One thing I want to quickly ask on that is, was his condition? He wanted to play. He's playing flex, right, for your team. Was his condition that he always wants to play Zarya? Because that's one thing he said to us. We wanted to try him as a DPS because I mean we got Termo. Termo wanted to stay on flex. We're like, oh yeah, that's we're asked at one stage, hey, do you want to give it a crack as DPS? He wasn't too keen because he wanted to play Zarya, and we're like, okay, this didn't work out. But yeah, no, the fact that he's found a team that he can play Zarya with mostly, and the meta's still going that way, which is really good for him. But I was just wondering, like, did he specifically state at any point he wants to play a certain amount of Zarya?
No, not really. But it was definitely coming on as the like flex player. Yeah, the other guy we were looking at was also a Zarya Diva player. So yeah, he was definitely coming on as a flex. Like recently in scrims, people really focus on not giving her energy, and he's getting pretty annoyed. So he wants to play a bit of soldier and tracer and that now. So we're kind of switching things up a bit. So like,
so hashtag give him his energy.
Kind of worked out. Like he is playing more DPS, I suppose now. I don't know. So no, not very much at all. There was never any like specific mention of that.
Now, Jordan, so you guys can have the first 2 weeks to just focus on the scrims. You can have it a bit easy, but there's one hurdle that you guys have to get over at Masterminds. That is KS1, the big star Reinhardt player. He's not going to be participating in the summer series.
Yeah, no, Kyle's actually going away on the weekend of the main event is on. When Heroes League was originally a 3-week league, which I was really excited for, now it's more of a glorified ODC that I don't really care about. Kyle was only going to be away for 2 of the days out of the 3 weeks, and now that they've changed it, they've completely shafted us because now we don't have Kyle for essentially the whole tournament, which is fucking huge. Like, it's massive. Losing Kyle is a really big deficit. We've got Bangs in at the moment. He scrimmed with us a few times and subbed for Kyle and did all right, so we just picked him up. He gets along with all of us, which I think is the main thing. And we've been scrimming with him a little bit. Kyle's been sitting in, spectating him and telling him exactly what to do. So if Kyle can tell Bangs what to do, we'll be right.
Kyle is a beast. So
yeah.
Oh man, I remember that. So you remember this one, Redact? Do you remember that Oasis map? It would have been CG a couple of weeks ago. You played Masterminds in the semi-final, and then KS1 charge across the top of Oasis. And wait, I've got my pen here. So you can charge across the top of Oasis, and he landed behind your entire team, landed at Earthshatter, and that was at the end of the map. Do you remember? Like, that was crazy because it was so close. It was so close, and there was just like that one play. It was like the end. There's like no way to predict that a Reinhardt's going to go flying in the air behind your team. That's like the last thing you think of. But yeah. Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't remember that specifically, that one. Mostly because we seem to have a lot of history for charging. Reinhardt's are charging to our team, and it's probably the thing that Mosh hates the most. So it feels like anytime any team charges into us, there's always Mosh making some remark about our fucking charging Reinhardts, etc., etc. So with that in mind, I mean, like, it feels like every Reinhardt charges all the time, every single chance they mash that button just while it's coming off cooldown again and again. So when it comes to any specific charging Reinhardt moments, unless it's something ridiculously crazy, I usually don't remember it.
It was. He jumped off the jump pad. He charged off the jump pad, and he came over the top of the column and came down the back. And I was like, oh, he's going to get focused, or they're going to notice it. He landed in the middle of you guys and shadowed behind. It was a pretty good stream moment. They caught it well on camera too, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
We were all laughing our ass off. It was pretty funny. I thought one of our scrims against Nectar's team, he charged into the jump pad. Like, he started the charge before he went up the jump pad, pinned Joyboy, and then pinned Joyboy to the top of the column and killed him instantly. We were all laughing so hard. It's retarded.
Is there any like moments like from either actual competitive games, not as in competitive queue, but like competitive tournament games, or anything in the scrims that you guys can remember that was like quite memorable to you guys? Anything you like, either players that fucked up really bad or anything?
Just all of the ones that I remember, just massive meme moments. Like I don't know if the video went everywhere. The Trinkler moment with Dorky. There was that one. There was one more as well. Yeah, when it was just in a scrim when Gumba forgot. This is back when what single hero limits were a thing, and Gumba forgot to set single hero limits, and we just picked 6 Winstons. Like moments like that are the ones that I remember. I don't remember specific huge moments too much. But I remember sort of the more joke moments, the funny moments. I feel like with our team, because I mean that's what I said. Like it's a massive joke sort of thing, and it's ongoing with us. Like it's always been like that, a very funny joke sort of atmosphere at times, and that's the sort of moments that I remember when there's really just funny moments with the team.
What about you, Jordan? Masterminds have always got some crazy scrims and league moments.
Most of our moments are just when Bim forgets to call and he he kind of like stutters on his words a bit, and he just gets like half a word out, and then we're just like, yeah, we get it, Bim, don't worry, and he's like, oh shit, sorry guys, and we're all just like trying to kill everyone. I think most of the time, usually when Degs gets upset about something, that's pretty funny, because especially last meta, he'd always complain about fucking Roadhogs, and I think everyone did, because Roadhog's fucking stupid, should be deleted.
Well, you're happy now. You get to go back to Zara. You don't have to worry about Diva anymore, dude. I remember you used to bitch about you had to play nothing but Zaya, but then when Diva became a thing, you like missed Zaya all of a sudden.
Yeah, okay, so Diva's fun. Like I enjoy playing Diva, but playing against Diva is actually the worst experience anyone will ever have playing Overwatch. Actually, the worst hero in the game.
Well, it's not as bad now. You can't just sit in your back line and just kill a support and then get out for free. But
Not until they buff it again.
You actually have to think now, which is a real bonus. You know, you can't just walk into an entire team. You just, no, yeah, I'm fine. I'm invincible. Getting healed for 180 a second, you know, got infinite armor. Even if you kill me, just get out of mech. I'll probably still be fine. I'll get back in 5 seconds later. I could use my ult, get full HP again. You'll have to run away. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to do some damage? I'll block it all.
it was. I know, like, it was just as horrible for us to cast because, like, what do you say? It's just like, oh, it's just Diva doing Diva things. Like, this, it was so boring. It was so boring for like a good solid 2 months. But before we get on to anything else to do with like the game, it's time to Switch. You wanted to talk about the community hubs. There's a lot that you wanted to get off your chest, so I'll let you have the floor, mate.
Not so much get off my chest. Just wanted to, I don't know, like, I think people kind of miss, like, and I'm guilty of this too. So, like, I'll give an interesting anecdote. Like, back when I was first coming into the Overwatch community, the wider Australian scene, rather than just being like a casual player, just playing quick play and stuff, I kind of came to the major community discords, and ANZ Overwatch seemed at the time like this just crazy place. Like, what on earth was going on in general chat there? Like, just constant people bad-mouthing each other, and I thought the community was full of vitriol and hatred, and what on earth are they doing over there? And there's some specific people I know were banned on like Whirlpool and Server 76. I'm like, man, those guys must be pretty toxic, you know. And then I went to the Canberra LAN, right? And I met Patterson, for example, and he was banned on like both Server 76 and WatchPoint. And he was just like the nicest guy. Like we arrived in Canberra and they're like tired as shit after a long ass car drive. And Patterson immediately takes us to the pub and buys us all pints, you know. And he's just like laughing and always having a good time and having fun. It really demonstrated to me like people behave very differently in the ANZ Overwatch text chat. It's all a big troll. It's all a joke. Most people don't know that who are new, and it comes across really bad. And it represents the competitive scene as well, because a lot more people than you think from like the Whirlpools or the WatchPoint Oceania now and Server 76ers know what the ANZ Overwatch chat's like. They've been there, the server, and they've left. And a lot of the casual viewers don't actually watch, you know, CyberGamer weeklies, or back when Gamester was on Gamester, and might not watch Heroes League or Full Circle or Summer Series, whatever you want to call it. And I definitely think we should be working to get them involved, because there's so many people who really care about Overwatch, like a shitload, and the Australian Overwatch scene and community and stuff. But they spend all their time, you know, playing quick play or comp in you know, whatever rank they're in. and they never really get involved with the competitive scene. And I think they would if they had some more reason to. So I'd like to see, people getting involved in stuff like the CGNs over at WatchPoint and more of the 7076 events, and telling people, hey, I play on this team, come watch us play in tournaments and stuff. I think you'd see a lot more, throughput coming through from those servers. And yeah, that's pretty much, the kind of topic I wanted to raise, what other people think about, the three big Discords and, the community and stuff and how it all works.
What do you think, Redact?
Well, it's really, really hard because, there's still no main central hub sort of thing. It's near impossible to establish unless some communities just like, I don't know, take it and tell just everyone, just go here instead, totally shut down, call it a day, which isn't going to happen. That's pretty crazy to do. It's really, really hard to promote, and that's exactly the sort of thing that, at least WatchPoint 70, WatchPoint and Server 76, they both sort of have a much better entry sort of part to it, and that's sort of, at least my experience in fostering communities, is like you don't want to, pretty much you don't have to foster top players, almost just foster the entry level, mid level, and usually things related to top level players come in time on their own, almost through competitions and all that sort of stuff. They'll pander towards the top players. So the reality is the communities have only got to pander to the entry and the mid level sort of players, and that's exactly right. It's just like people don't get into the community or don't watch streams, don't get into tournaments because not only A, do they not know that sort of thing as well, but B, because they also have the idea of they'll interact with these people that are awful people from ANZ Overwatch communities that are practically neo-Nazis or sort of stuff like that, which is completely inaccurate. But the reality is it's sort of like, unless you're inside that group and really know it, not only do you not know it's like that, but also there's the people who don't appreciate that sort of humor or that sort of stuff in the first place, where the reality is they're either much younger or much more serious or much older or anything like that. They just don't sort of care for that sort of stuff, or they take it quite literally a lot more because they're inexperienced, and it just promotes sort of like a bad impression on the community when it comes to stuff like that. So it's really, really hard to sort of like bring everyone in, bring them to show these events and sort of stuff. But then the reality is, when the main place that all these top players congregate is the place that they don't get told of, or the place they're told is an awful place. It's sort of like, why aspire to go up to that level, or why aspire to get involved when it's only going to go downhill rather than uphill? Because you've already reached what is the peak at Server 76, where the entry level is actually the most entertaining part for these people, and that's the sort of problem where it looks to be worse to get involved rather than better, because there's all these negative connotations and personalities and all this other stuff involved. And I don't know I don't actually know what you could do to fix it. I've got no ideas. Otherwise, I'd probably try to work towards it, because I always love to work towards helping and fixing communities, that sort of stuff. Like, I honestly don't actually know the next sort of step, but I'd be happy to help out with anything.
I think doing a community event with some of the top teams and open entry, and maybe like, I remember Jordan back when he was playing CGNs wanted to get put on an opposite team as, was it Aaron, and you were going to see who could shot call better and lead a team to victory.
Yeah, no, Aaron's entire game plan was kill Jordan. It pissed me off so much because that's what they did.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, and something like that can actually be fun. We were going to do this community event with the Abyss guys before the org drama happened, and they disbanded it or left or quit or whatever, or went the various ways, and maybe have like a coaching day with them at WatchPoint and have them coach people like one-on-one. These are your mistakes, etc. Maybe get form a team of 6 players each, and they would just in-game lead from the third-person spectate role. And have like an event like that, something like that, to get people involved. Tag yourself up, Masterminds Jordan, or Tempo Redact, and say, hey, we come watch this event on the weekend afterwards. You'd raise a lot of awareness, and I think you'd pull a lot of viewers through, and people who might stay because they're have an emotional reason to, because they are part of the scene.
Yeah, but definitely need to get all these, especially all the new teams, need to get them in. Like, I was trying to do that with the CG format, but I can't do anything with CG for a little while. I'll come back and help them out, but we need some sort of, like, we need a league, like something that's consistent, that with multiple divisions, so that way we've got something that separates the top teams from all the mid-tier teams, and they get separated from the entry teams. So they have somewhere they can learn how to play the game against people with a similar skill set. Something that's a lot more serious. That's a weekly event for them. That's not just queuing up for competitive. I feel like if you had everyone in that one hub of like different leagues, or everyone in the one league with different divisions, that would definitely help bring people together. Because everyone's got, like, they're under the one banner in the one competition. And I suppose, like, if you're playing in that competition and you're, say, like, in the third division, you might want to go check out the first division and see what the teams are up there, because that's where you would want to aspire. You're both playing in the same competition. You want your team to get better, so you want to get up to the first division with the extra prize money and, you know, the better reputation. So I feel like that's one way. That's how the Counter-Strike community worked when I was playing Counter-Strike. So I'm hoping that's a thing. I don't know if that's what Full Circle have planned later on. I'm hoping, because they seem quite passionate about the game. They dedicate a lot of time to this. They've got their own studio and they're putting a lot of effort into this tournament. I hope that that's something they might think of doing instead of this is like their first big event. Like they had their first one, I guess, like Season 1 Heroes League, but this is completely different. They've put a lot more effort into this, and it's a lot bigger with their own studio space. So hopefully, if they've got their own studio space, I imagine they're going to stick around for quite some time. What would you guys want to see out of either CyberGamer or Full Circle in the future?
A league.
I was going to say, if I don't know if anyone would have heard of this, it's called an Arcadian, but pretty much it'd work if once we have more teams, which is kind of a catch-22 because we want to build more teams. But Arcadian is generally something where in Smash what happened was if anyone can enter it as long as they haven't been on the power rankings before. So if they're currently on the power rankings, can't enter it, and if they have been on it before, they can't enter it. So it's not a matter of retired or swapped up teams or something like that. Swapping in, it's a matter of it's just an event purely for people who haven't been on proper rankings before. It's treated just like any other series event, proper prize pool. Everything is just quite literally. It was can't play if you've been in the power rankings before. So it would be something that a lot of newer teams and or lower end teams would be something more into. We could probably do some variation of it that has like top 5 power rankings currently, or if you've been within the top X of the power rankings. So you still have some of the lower teams of the power rankings, but I also have teams that haven't made it on there before. But just some sort of divisional league or event, or even one day competitions, because right now like there's been heaps and heaps of one day competitions and they're doing okay, but the reality is that there still hasn't been any separation of things. It doesn't have to be an ongoing league. It can be a one day competition. It can be any format, but there just needs to be something that gives the other level of players more than just one game to play against another team of somewhat skill level. It needs to be some sort of competition to figure out who's the best of the rest, sort of thing. So it still feels like they get a victory, they get a win, and there's places to go, but it's also they're not going to get stomped down by Masterminds or TempoStorm or Fusion Girls, that sort of thing, where it's just a matter of they feel like they're going to enter just to lose.
Yeah, because that's the big problem right now.
I think multiple divisions would work for that. I mean, that also has the inelegance of, and I've dealt with this problem because of balancing CGNs. People being idiots and getting on alternate accounts and, coming to try and get the prize or just ruin it for whatever reason. 'Cause people do that shit. It's annoying. It happens. I think it's a good idea, and if people did it and the community got behind it, it'd be awesome. We definitely need something like that. But again, it's the same problem Redact mentioned. If we had more teams doing a tiered divisional league, like you mentioned, like CS:GO do it, 3 divs would do a good job. If you can separate the top 18 from everyone else, you have 8 and then 10, or 8 and then 12. As long as you can get 20 teams. And then that bottom space really leaves it open for people of any skill level to come and play and have a fun time.
Yeah.
Because you take out 120 of the best players, the community really opens up after that.
Yeah, because no one wants to sign up to the CG and then gets seeded. You don't get a seed, then you just go up against. It's pretty much like
top teams just get ruined.
It's pretty much someone like Masterminds, and I know for a fact that a lot of teams, Jordan, you could probably quote me on this, a lot of the top teams don't really want to verse someone that's unknown in a best of one, just in case something crazy happens and you get knocked out early.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, Ancient Templar versus Salt Gravy. Like, even though they're not the worst team, it's just like you've just cancelled your entire night, which you could be used scrimming, to lose a best of one in the first round, and it's like, what's the point? And especially when you go CyberGamer, like for example, what we did, games weren't really that hard. Even our semi-final game against Love Shack wasn't really that hard. So it was only into the grand final that we actually started playing, and that's like 11 o'clock, and it's just like, we could scrim and get more out of it than play an entire nights of CG, but we want to do it because it's fun.
Yeah. So, which is cool to see out of a lot of the teams. A lot of people have helped out every week and push that along. So we're at the point where we need to do something now while we've got this influx of teams, which definitely helps because this is all the momentum coming from Full Circle's event. Everyone wants to get involved with this, so we need to make sure after this event we continue this momentum going. We keep these teams around because remember looking at the power rankings, Jordan, like during the Christmas break, we were scraping the battle to get 10 teams.
Right. Yeah. No, didn't old mate from Heroes League, I forget who it was, didn't he say that he had like 36 teams or something signed up for the qualifiers, like some ridiculous amount of teams?
Something. So it's a big number.
Yeah. So we can definitely field the teams if there's an event on. It's just like the December. It was even like late November through January, February break. There was nothing on except CyberGamer. It's just like, what's the point for staying live, honestly?
And even the last ESL, we didn't even get that many teams, and that was in December. And that was $1,000 tournament. It was $1,000 prize.
Everyone disbanded after Div 1 and Div 2 ended. Like the number of teams that died then is just... And some of those players haven't come back, by the way. There were some decent teams that were competing around that time. Some names that I would recognise, and that they're not back. The team needs consistency. There needs to be more tournaments. And constant.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the best ones to look at in terms of players that haven't come back is look at the original Chief and the original Jam roster and how many are still playing. And by original, I mean like best of the beta or the first competitions maybe after, but that's sort of like those people. And then how many are still actually playing Overwatch now? Like it's just because it's been all over the shop since the end of beta, and I don't know. Each competition seems like, oh yeah, after this it'll be better. Then it doesn't end up like sort of panning out afterwards, and I don't know. Like I know at some stage it'll get more stable and be all good, and it's looking better than ever. It feels like the post-launch blues that every single game has is sort of really past now because we're getting the real up and ups again. But we just sort of need follow through because after each big competition, there just actually hasn't been follow through yet. Still, just not once yet.
And that's why I was kind of worried about with like Hey Katie as an example, one of the players that have been, people looked up to him throughout the course of the scene as it's been panning out. He was in Chiefs and then TempoStorm. So when he was going to leave, I'm like, oh, that's another one of the originals that are gone because Jim Ebb's gone, Dozzo's gone, and then Aporia, he left. Pretty much everyone from the Chiefs, apart from the few members that have moved on to the TempoStorm lineup. It's just like, man, like all these players that I was used to seeing every week when I first got into casting and first got into the scene, like a lot of them have changed. Even like the Tainted Minds players, remember they were like a top 4 team, Redact, like Tainted Minds back in the day, and even the Woodcocks. I guess a lot of those players have come back now.
They're all professional Grim Dawn players now, all of Masterminds.
Yeah, so it's...
Oh, you mean Tainted Minds?
Tainted
Minds, sorry. Yeah. Oh, something Minds, I don't know. Oh,
everything
man.
Mind.
Too many minds.
Jesus
Too many minds.
So after mine aren't coming back, they're going to stick with Paladins. Yeah. So that's another team that's gone. But they do have PB and Jam and Tails who are playing with Aftermind. They're in Love Shack now. So, which is cool. Love Shack is a strong team. Then you got 1018 who has a lot of some of the old Woodcocks members. So they're another strong team. Monopoly Club, Default, so Scylla. There's all these teams that are on the up and up. I know I've forgotten other team names. With pretty much Yes Men, of course. You're right here, Switch. You got the 4 teams, Tempo, Jam, Fusion and Masterminds are kind of like the four that have stuck around through thick and thin throughout the whole period of the dead era of fucking Overwatch. Everyone said the dead game meme pretty much over the course of the summer. So these four have pretty much stuck through everything. So it's pretty cool to see, they're the four that are at the top now because they've put the time and effort in. So it's cool to see all these new teams come up and challenge them. It's just all about, as you guys mentioned, keeping the momentum moving on. So I want to say a big shout out to Degs actually, because he spent his time writing out reviews for the casters and for CyberGamer, which helps out a lot. We need more people pitching in and putting in their, not just saying like, so I'm going to use an example. So I'm going to use you, Squizzy, not just one line, like just a complaint saying like, you just complain about one thing and PM it to me. Do something like what Degs did, where he took the time and broke things down, and then, it helps us realize what's wrong. Because if you just say some sort of small insult or something that's passive aggressive, it's just going to piss people off, and you're just going to cause an argument. But if it's something where, it's something we can read and look into what problems are happening on the streams or any competitions, it's something that I can bring back to casters or other players and everyone can have an actual discussion about. So I get that when we first did I know like you're angry then Switch, when we first we're testing out the format, a lot of people got pissed off that night, which was really difficult because I didn't know how long that was going to take. And clearly it was way too fucking long with 20 teams, but that's like another example. I know like a lot of you guys, everyone from Yes Men came up to apologize to me anyway, but there was other people that didn't have too many nice things to say, but it was, you really need like constructive feedback, because it's hard if someone just says, I don't know, says like fuck you or whatever, or this is fucking shit. It doesn't really like do anything to me. Like I can't do anything about that. Like if you just say this is fucking shit, and we're like, well, I don't know, what did I do wrong? Like I need to know. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on everyone moving forward and taking like responsibility to, I don't know, to be more constructive?
Yeah, I was gonna say like just to butt in there real quick, because I don't have any constructive feedback. Was like there's plenty of stuff written in Twitch chat. I mean, can't you just check out that? Like, does that not have enough in it? There's plenty of lines there each night.
It's really hard for me. I can't really go back because I'm streaming at the time, so I don't have a chance to read. So if someone needs to like PM it to me or talk to me, so because I don't have it up, because unfortunately I'm stuck doing casting, the production, like managing the stream, and admitting the event as well. So I don't have any time to read anything in Twitch chat. I've already got PMs to deal with in Discord. So, or anything that gets sent to me in BattleNet. So it's already difficult enough. So by the time if I'm casting, I've already jumped onto like, we finish, it's like, okay, we have to throw it to, either I'm doing the desk or I've just thrown it to the desk, and then I'm figuring out what's the next game to put on stream. I literally have no time unless I get to the grand final and I'm not casting, and I get to go like, hey, let's see what's going on Twitch now. And that's when I usually go, hey, what's up guys? And that's like right at the end of the night. And that's the first time I get to go look what's going on Twitch chat. So when Degs like put that document in, I was there, I responded, and I read through it, because I can't read through Twitch chat. So that's why I do something like what Degs did.
And Degs' thing was very constructive as well. He linked a bunch of timestamps and specific examples. This is what you could have done instead. This is what I think you should have done instead. And like 90% of what he said, I 100% agree with. That was pretty good.
I think making sure that people actually take that constructive criticism as well. I know there was one person who kind of replied to it and was kind of like, yeah, nah, but it's hard though. And it's just like, well, I mean, nothing worth doing is easy. You can't just get, like, someone's taken the time to write out all this criticism. You can't just then say, oh, you know what, casting's hard. Can't do that. It's a bit of a cop out, I reckon.
Playing the game's hard. You gotta break everything down piece by piece, and like try and figure out exactly what's gone wrong. You can do the same with anything. It's just breaking it down into small problems and solving them one by one.
I think, and I mean, especially when someone's taken the time to write out a text document with timestamps about, like, how to improve your shit. to then reply to that and then say, oh well, it's too hard. It's a bit pussy, honestly.
And a lot of the stuff he said was really good. Like he was talking a lot about transitions and trying to talk about too much, and because of that, you're only scraping the surface. If you focus on one specific thing, you can go more in detail, and that's all bang on the head. That's exactly the art of Overwatch casting, and yeah.
And I think it's only fair for players to be critical because, you know, we cast. We've been critical of the players the entire match that they're playing. So I think it's fair for people to send feedback, send their own feedback. Because players don't want to be a part of a mediocre stream, which is like fair enough. They just want to see people improve. I know maybe some people could have taken what Deg said the wrong way, but if he didn't give a shit, then he wouldn't have spent the time to write it out. And he's been one of those people that message me each week, and I know you've been a pain in my ass, Deg, sometimes with the seedings or whatever when we've had discussions about that, but I just want you to know that I do appreciate the time and effort you put into the scene, and as much as sometimes I can clash with people if I'm busy and I'm trying to get things sorted. I appreciate every single person that takes the time out of their day to help me out and to help out the rest of the scene, because it means a lot more than just bitching and moaning in a public chat that doesn't solve anything. It just goes around in circles and everyone just talks shit. Just like we did, remember those days, Redact, when we started the OCEOVERWATCH Overwatch forums got started and everyone was just jumping into the ANZ Overwatch lounge and everyone just talking shit and just going nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the sort of non-constructive stuff that I love so much, but I know is completely non-constructive. That's from the worker. It's just awful, but great at the same time. I like it too much for the sort of position that I'm in. I shouldn't like it as much as I do.
Yeah. It's so tempting just to talk shit. So that's the biggest thing. So it's so much easier to just talk shit and just meme. But then if you do that, nothing really gets solved. So before we wrap things up, is there anything people want to talk about, anything to do with the current meta or teams or anything to do with Overwatch, or is there anything someone wants to bring up?
It'll be interesting to see which teams can pull off the dive better, because I think which team has the best dive is honestly going to dominate this meta, because diving even on defense is really, really strong. On King's Row, I know it didn't really work because Scylla ran pretty much the only counter to that comp, which is a Roadhog. Running the Reinhardt Winston Zarya is actually the most retarded comp I've ever seen used in Overwatch so far, because we actually bin teams with it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, we do the same comp. It's really good.
It's so funny. People just don't expect it. They just don't understand how to deal with it.
And and people are just not ready to be attacked when they're on offense. People want to, we're going to use these ults, we're going to set up, and just you're in their face. They're completely unprepared for it. This IGL is still talking about what they're going to do in the next fight, and the next fight's already happening.
Yeah, and it perfectly counters the dive, which most teams are going to run an attack.
Yep.
Yeah, because the Winston just shuts down everything.
So what's brought on this big change with Winston? How come it's so popular now?
Well, one, because D.Va is trash now, and because the ability to engage into people is actually huge. It's a much bigger factor than some people realize. Being able to engage on your terms pretty much wins you a fight every time. And
the thing you're doing with that comp is you're overloading your engage. There's only a few characters in this game that can actually effectively engage. I'd argue, in fact, without ultimates, only two, Winston and Reinhardt. And when you have both, the ability to initiate is just absolutely insane, and you create so much space that you don't need the... especially with the Zay bubble, because they don't die. Yeah. You don't need the second DPS because you're just getting in there and just scattering the team instantly.
Especially if you run something like a Reaper as well, where you just go straight into them. Reaper close range shreds any tanks, and then all the squishies are just dead.
And it works so well when King's Row specifically are in that statue area, because the Reaper can just kite for days, Wraithform, get that health pack. It's beautiful. That's the perfect location for it. Yeah, so runs the exact same comp.
No Soldier 76, just Reaper instead.
A Soldier will definitely be in the meta at some point. It honestly depends on the map, because I reckon Pharah might make an emergence if you have a good Pharah. Like we have Degs, he just shits on people with Pharah. It's hilarious because people can't shoot up for some reason.
I guess it's been some time, but since I've seen. Sorry to cut you off there, Switch. I've seen Termo play a lot more Farah. I thought it'd be Money be on Farah or someone like that, and they'd have Termo playing Zarya, but I've been seeing Money play Zarya and Termo play Farah. What brought on that change?
It's like I think Tomo just wants to play more DPS, but we've been thinking a lot about where things work better for swapping up. Like to pretty much, I mean, we want Tomo and Zarya whenever we can, but if it comes down to Zarya is something we want to run for only 1 or 2 points. We really heavily think about what Tomo is going to play then instead, and if it's better to have money on Zarya and then the second swap, because if it goes from like for example, if it goes from Zarya to any sort of hit scan, or pretty much almost any sort of, if it goes from Zarya to any sort of DPS, it's generally better to stay in a money's domain there. But if it goes from Zarya to any sort of tank, whether it goes from Zarya to Winston or Zarya to Hog or whatever else, we generally have it at Tomo. So we've seen a lot of it, not just on Fire, but there's a lot of maps who play Tracer. There's some maps where he's a diva and then money goes Zarya, because what happens is the Zarya swaps straight away to something like a Genji even afterwards, because we go super dive after a certain point or something like that. I mean, we've had heaps of sort of really different spots, and at least this meta really sort of, you'll see that from a lot of teams, not just our own, where you'll see a lot of people on different roles and swap ups a lot more often, because this meta just sort of allows it to happen. I mean, if you look at the pick rates in any of the competitions, there's so many heroes in the 10 to 40% pick rate. That's just ridiculous at this point in time compared to any other meta.
It's a really good meta game so far, and maybe someone will figure out the thing that breaks it, but
it's really diverse. It's awesome.
I love it. You can do so many things. There's so many viable strategies. It's
like triple DPS, triple tank, triple with like double sniper, Farah, all kinds of dumb shit, and it all works because it's hilarious.
And it works, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's good fun.
There's also some changes coming to another character we haven't seen some time in the meta, which will be Bastion.
Still going to be trash.
So why did he still be trash? Go through.
Okay, so you have a stationary turret.
Yep.
Bastion's pretty much a Torbjorn turret, essentially, that does more damage. You can honestly just go anywhere that you can't see, and the character is completely useless. It's just trash. He's a shit hero.
I don't know if you read the notes, Jordan, but they're making his left click when he walks around a lot better. Like, I don't see the gun being that much worse than Soldier's Rifle from the changes that they just said in text, right? Because the gun does a fuckload of damage. It just has really bad spread, and they're reducing the spread on it. Now, reducing can mean a bunch of things, but if they reduce it too much, the gun is going to be Soldier gun. Maybe, like, I don't know. Who knows?
So, yeah, if they make Bastions like Sentry mode, I forget what it's called. The Recon mode, that's what it's called. If they make the Recon mode weapon about as strong as Soldier and reduce the spread, that might actually be the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because then you're going to go from Nano Tac Visor to Nano Tank, which is going to have like 400 health, can't be killed. It's just going to wipe teams even more than a Soldier ult already does.
They got to be careful, because they're giving him he can use his heal while moving now as well.
Yeah.
And it's a cool resource.
I'll go through the patch notes for just some people in case they haven't read them. So Jeff Goodman from Blizzard says there will be a recon mode, which will be lower spread, increased magazine size to help with general viability in this mode. Sentry mode, we're looking at focusing this mode into more of a tank buster and barrier buster mode, while also making it feel less suicidal to be transformed to that. And we are testing stuff like increased spread and removing headshots but taking less damage while transformed. And then finally, self-repair. We have been testing a few big changes to this and are feeling really good so far. Currently, our internal build has Bastion able to use self-repair while moving and also having it no longer interrupted when taking damage. To balance that out, it is now on our resource system similar to the route Diva's defense matrix went. These changes have turned this ability from more of a niche, rarely used ability to much more powerful and core survivability tool. So what do you guys think about that?
So yeah, just some notes on his gun. It's got the exact same damage as Soldier's gun right now, and its fall off is 5 meters shorter, so it's got 5 meters less range. It's 26 rather than 30, so 4 rather. The only difference is the spread in the magazine size, which they said they're reducing. So Bastion could become ridiculously strong if they don't get the spread right. Because if you reduce that spread by very much, he's going to be way too strong, as Jordan said.
Yeah.
As for the sentry mode, if his left click becomes as good in recon as I think it will be, I don't think you'll see it that much other than just to bust Reinhardt shield, which, I mean, it's not like he wouldn't already bust it incredibly. So yeah, could be very scary. I think you'll see the turret get used a lot less, and with the mobile heals, he's basically a tankier soldier, which sounds like a nightmare to deal with.
What do you think, Redact?
Well, it's purely just depends on what they want they're wanting to do. Like if he wants to be a tank buster, since that was his general design idea, or at least that's what it sounds like they want him to do. Will be one of the main answers to Reinhardt. If anything, it sounds like they're probably not going to reduce the spread too much. So Soldier is still way better at dealing with DPS. But what will happen is it's got a bigger magazine size. The damage being the same. Well, I think they mentioned an increased damage. I don't know. Maybe I missed a bit. But even if the damage stayed the same as Soldiers, but simply had more DPS if you don't miss, but it has a bigger spread, what will happen is it'll just get better at destroying Reinhardt's shield and or tanks. But already super huge targets. It won't be good at hitting shit like Genji that's flipping around, or Traces that's going all around, because the spread will be way too much for those sort of things. But it'll just be a matter of just they've got a Reinhardt. You can, if you've got your own Reinhardt or something you can sit behind, you can sentry mode it. Otherwise, you literally just like be a shield pepper that just breaks their shields and breaks their tanks over time, rather than be expect to be able to pick people off at longer ranges or anti-fire sort of thing. You're not looking at that. It just, I mean, if he ends up being decent in any capacity, I mean, I could see it just purely just due to him being a good answer to Reinhardt, if that actually goes through in any way. But it doesn't feel like there needs to be that much of an answer to Reinhardt right now. There's a lot of ways you can actually sort of answer him a bit more in this meta. Considering, like, I feel like people sort of knee-jerked that there's no Roadhog at all, whereas the reality is he still actually completely craps on Reinhardt's shields. And it's so easy to get a Reinhardt shield break and then pull a Reinhardt in, because a Reinhardt's not going to suddenly jump behind a statue or zip around a corner that you break that hook. It's going to still really, really be easy to do that sort of thing. So I feel like there doesn't need to be a tank buster, but I don't know. It just sort of depends on how they do it. I reckon they're not going to overlap the roles with Soldier at all. I don't think he's going to be good at dealing with DPS yet still. But I think he's going to become a really good tank buster if they do it right. I don't see that being a big part of the meta, though, because in the end, he'll probably just get cleaned up still by good DPSs and or certain tactics. Like it still feels like a matter of you react to Bastion and beat him, and that's kind of it. He won't sort of be able to make any crazy huge plays out of nowhere. He's too static and straightforward for that sort of thing, even with extra heals or extra HP.
And you think anyone wants that on before we wrap things up? That's going to be
Nothing
enough.
for me.
It's going to be enough. So, because I know you guys got scrims, it's getting closer to 8 o'clock, so I don't want you to just be like, oh, shit, it's we're going to jump straight into a scrim, so I at least want you guys to have some time before you start your 8 p.m. scrims, as it's 7:37 here in Melbourne time. So, let's do the shout-outs and thank yous as always. So, you first, Jordan. Shout-outs and thank yous.
Shout out to Masterminds, I guess. I don't know. Shout out to Eben. Too bad they couldn't be on this podcast as well. Would have been funny.
We didn't get to talk about that. So for people who don't know, the Jordan, I got him on a podcast. God love him. He wanted to be on the podcast a while ago, and then we're like, okay, we'll just put you on the Eben Christmas special. We're going to have a Christmas special and have all the Eben, however you want to say it. Had all those members on, and it just became a roast of everyone in the community. And I was just like, I just can't see that putting on the same channel where I put all the serious stuff on. I've just kept it away. Some people got a hold of it and they managed to stream it all. I can't remember. Someone actually said they got a copy of it. I think they were full of shit though. I don't think anyone's actually got a copy.
I don't think anyone has a copy of it because I've tried to find it, Bobby. My curiosity was driving me insane.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who generally have all the rumors and shit, and they claim they have no idea. So.
Yeah. Maybe one time in the future we'll make an appearance at some sort of land gathering, but right now it's the Myth podcast. It's going to be that one that everyone's just going to talk about, but never get to see at this point in time. Okay, over to you, Switch. Shoutouts and thank yous.
Shout out to my team over at WatchPoint Oceania, my team obviously, Yes Men. Shout out to Squizzy, unofficial coach of Yes Men. He's given us some great tips, and constantly giving us those tips. Shout out to Squizzy. Yeah.
Good old Squizzy, the number one OCE competitive fan. So much love to you, mate. And of course, Redact, shouts and thank yous.
I'll shout out TempoStorm, of course. I'm not gonna shout out anyone in my team. I don't like them. No, they don't get any shout-outs. I'll shout out my Smash friends as said, man, you guys are so much better. I don't know why I left you guys, but whatever. But no, I want to shout out, if anything, it's more so like the guys in the community that put all that effort in, like you, BobbyJ. Those little guys that do stuff off their back and they just get nothing for it, like Koth. I don't know, he's done heaps of stuff for the Server 76. I'm sure there's guys behind WatchPoint that I don't actually know who they are, but shout outs to them, whoever they are, that are running the WatchPoint. And yeah, shout outs to all those sort of guys, all the casters that are doing this, but they don't get anything. Shout outs to all the guys who run tournaments, like Full Circle. Sure, everyone complains about it, but in the end of the day, they're still trying to put on the best event that they can. It's not like they're actively thinking, oh man, let's just sabotage our event. Everyone will love that. No, they're honestly doing, I know they're honestly doing the best job they can. Everyone doesn't, a lot of people don't agree with them on different stuff, but I appreciate absolutely everything they're doing. And other guys like Games and stuff who put on events previously, I appreciate all that, even though there's been things that have gone wrong. I still appreciate everyone for everything that they're putting into the community in every way.
Well, with that, we'll wrap things up here. Much love to all you guys who come back every week and listen. And make sure you give this all a like, retweet, subscribe, all that typical fucking bullshit like a PewDiePie would say. So I'll see you all next week and take care. I'll see you all from the summer series shortly. Peace.